All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get started here. Welcome to April's Learning Lab. Today we have a fun one. We're going to be doing picking and packing with WiSys. Now, of course, picking and packing is probably the by customers. That's a very key part of WMS. Everybody wants to know what happens on the outbound side. Today we're going to cover every single out-of-the-box function that we have for picking and packing. There's a lot of different options in the system, so you'll get all that information today, and you can digest it and figure out if you have any questions later. I'm sure when you have a chance to break this apart, you'll probably have a lot more questions offline. So I always leave my camera on for introductions. I think most of you in attendance have met me before. So hi, everybody. I'm Chase Linson-Bigler. I'm going to go ahead and kill my camera so you can focus on what all I'm showing you today. And what I do here is I manage partner enablement at WiSys. So you guys have probably heard my spiel if you've been on the learning labs in the past, but a big goal of mine for this calendar year is to produce a lot more content for our partners, get everybody as trained up on WiSys as possible, and help enable you guys to be able to do as much WiSys consulting and get the most out of your WiSys deals as possible. And big cog in that machine that we're building here with our partner program is these learning labs. So for any of you that haven't attended before, these are held on the second Tuesday of each month, 2:30 to 3:30 EST, the same time slot. So you can block that off on your calendar if that's something you're going to be interested in attending. You only get the invite about a week in advance, and I know with partners, things get pretty busy sometimes. So if you want to block that off and make sure you're available for the learning labs, second Tuesday of each month, 2:30 to 3:30. And what I do here in my partner enablement role at WiSys, I'm a dedicated resource to our partners. So we do introduction training for new partners or new employees, consultants, support people, salespeople, any members of your team. We teach them all the ins and outs of the system in introduction training. We offer in-depth training for design tools. If you want to do the consulting in-house for WiSys projects and you want to learn how to tailor our applications yourself, we can give you the training and teach you how to do that. And for anybody who's not familiar, our product is fully tailorable. So any application that you see today can be tweaked and changed to fit a customer's process. And it's a pretty easy tool set that's built on, and it doesn't take a lot of time to learn it. And lastly, we do standing team meetings for a lot of our partners for continued WiSys enablement. The goal of that, of course, is to just have a time slot booked up on my calendar and your calendar that your team can jump in and ask any WiSys questions or bring up any WiSys issues they may have. So if any of that is interesting to you and I'm not meeting with your team yet, reach out, set something up. I want to try and have standing meetings with all of you if possible for this year. So that's a big goal of mine. So if this is something that appeals to you, let's get something on the calendar. Now, let's get into what we're here for today. Let's get into the learning lab. So we're covering all of the pick, pack, and ship methods in WiSys out of the box today. There's a lot of different options, and kind of building off of Aaron's learning lab last month, if you guys were here for that, it all ties in to our different types of WiSys licensing here. So there's 3 tiers to the WiSys product for anybody that wasn't here last week. It starts with Agility Essentials. That's our out of the box, real basic product, and a lot of the functionality you see in that fits very true to the way SAP works out of the box, right? So we take the natural SAP functions, we apply them to the handheld so that in the warehouse, on the warehouse floor, you can go through those SAP processes when the actual process flow is happening in the warehouse. Then we have Agility Professional. You don't see that on here. That simply gives you the ability to tailor these applications. If you need to make a few changes, you can change the way they look, the way they function, that sort of thing with Agility Professional. And then we get into Agility Enterprise, which is where we really become an extension of SAP Business One. We provide functionality to fill in the gaps as far as logistics are concerned, where SAP doesn't necessarily fit a real warehouse process. We provide some of our own tables and our own functionality to allow you to handle things more true to how the warehouse actually operates rather than just sticking true to SAP documents. And with that, that brings in packages and shipments, which we're going to talk about extensively today. So first, we'll jump into ways to pick and pack with Agility Essentials. Again, this is true to and an extension of SAP B1 functionality. And what I mean by that is these forms operate, very similarly to how the documents operate in SAP Business One, except we're taking them to the handheld. We're allowing you to, go through the steps that you need to for those documents just on the actual warehouse floor with a handheld scanner. So we're going to start with sales order picking, then we'll go into directed picking, which both of those, we're focused on picking a sales order pick list from the pick, pack, and production manager in SAP V1. And then lastly, we'll go over our sales order delivery form as well. So let's get into that. First, we're going to jump over to B1 here, and we'll take a look at our pick list. So we're going to be starting with this pick list 442, very simple. Document number is 1080. I have that open here as well. We can take a look at our sales order. Again, just one item, quantity of 5 of that item, pretty cut and dry. So I'm going to keep my pick list up so we can watch the changes that happen. And we're going to start with our regular sales order picking. So our two forms here for picking a sales order out of the box, sales order picking, directed picking, are very different to perform the same function, right? Sales order picking allows the picker full control over the picking process. So this is a free form. They can select what item they want to pick, what order they want to pick for, as long as it's on that pick list they selected, where they want to pick it from. All of those options are up to the picker. This is really good for super users like a warehouse manager, just allows them full control of the picking process. So we're going to start here with that pick list 442. I have a barcode printed out. So, it could be, that's my order. It could be scanned from an actual paper pick list in the warehouse. Sometimes they might print off a paper crystal report pick list with a barcode on there where they scan, or they may need to know that number off the top of their head. So they might utilize our lookups, and they can see now all the orders that are on that pick list. Of course, there's only one. So I'll select that. And now they'll just move through all the items associated with that pick list and order, and they will pick each item and update the document in SAP simultaneously as they do so. So now I'm going to do my item A00001, scan that. So now in the warehouse of physical process, we found the item, we scan the item. Now we're going to scan the bin we're pulling it out of. And then we're going to enter in our quantity of 5. And now that item is fully picked, real simple. We went through, did a couple scans. Now it's picked on the pick list. And if we jump back to B1, we'll see everything update simultaneously as well. So once we refresh here, we're going to change our status to picked. And of course, our pick list over here as well, or not our pick list, our sales order is going to change our pick status to Y as well for that yes flag. Yes, this item has been picked. All of that is updated, rather quickly here in SAP Business One, and you can move through the form pretty simply there. Now, when it comes to the delivery side of things, the items are picked. We need to create an SO delivery document. There's a standalone application in WiSys to do this, but we can also do it from within this application. So let's say it's a small parcel type of situation. We pick the items and we want to just ship them out immediately. The FedEx driver is here. He's ready to pick it up. We're just going to pick them, hand them to him, and create the delivery note. We just simply press this delivery button here. We give the handheld a second to update. It can print out a packing slip. We're not going to worry about any printing today for the sake of time. And now if we jump back over here, we will see that our document has now been closed and a delivery is created in SAP Business One. Again, very simple. So it's a couple scans to pick, and then you just press that delivery button, delivers it in the system. Now, a question that we get a lot, and I'm sure we'll have some questions on today too, is about security with that. Of course, if you don't want a regular picker in the warehouse to be able to ship that out, if your customer wants that just for the warehouse manager, you can change the restrictions around that delivery button to only have the correct person in the warehouse shipping it. So those are some things that you play with when you have the professional or enterprise license. You try and find that sweet spot, right, as far as security and who's allowed to do what. But in this case, whoever was picking has that full control. They can pick whatever item they want, when they want, and deliver it all in one step there. Now we're going to jump to another sales order. We're going to go to 1081 and a new pick list as well. And we're going to look at the difference between our regular sales order picking that gives you full control and our directed sales order picking. So when we go into our directed sales order picking here, you'll notice things are a little bit different. You don't see these lookups everywhere, which indicates that we don't want you to query the data and be able to get a list of orders or items or anything like that. And that is intentional. The goal of directed picking here is to provide the picker with the most efficient pick path and force them to pick items in that order, which, based is the correct order to pick most efficiently, right? So we're going to start by scanning our pick list. And it's that 443. And now you see it fills in for us the order, the item, the quantity, and the bin, right? So now what we're asking the picker to do is confirm that they're following this pick list correctly, right? So we know our item already. It's supposed to be that A00001. So, okay, I'm the picker. I'm at my bin. I find my item and I scan it in, confirm I have the right item. Now I want to scan and confirm that I'm picking from the correct location. I scan my bin. And then lastly, I want to confirm that I have the correct quantity. I'm going to go ahead and do a quantity of 5. Now, before I enter this in, notice I'm picking order 1081. We have this same item on order 1082. The functionality of directed picking is going to have all like items grouped together so that, okay, I picked order 1081. Now I still need to pick that same exact item. It's going to send me, to that correct item. Now this time, of course, we pick too much out of that bin. We have to go to a new bin, but it's going to pick like items in order, try and stick to the same bins. Then it's going to bounce to the next item and take you through the most efficient pick path. The pick path is set up based on how your bins are set up in B1. If you follow an order like bin 05A1, then 05A2, 05A3, that would be the order it would follow. And through tailoring, you can also identify different orders if there's another way that you want to go about that. Now we're just going to go back through this the same way. So I'm going to confirm my item. And in this case, I don't have a barcode printed out for this. So I'm going to just type it in. And I'm going to hit my quantity of 5. Now that item is picked and we're going to move on to our final item. But quickly, if I refresh this, just to show you the real-time aspect of WiSys, again, we're partially picked here. Everything we've done is saved and added over to the SAP system. So we see we're partially picked and both lines of that item are picked in the system. And, in real time, if somebody in the office goes in there to check and see if this order is getting picked, they'll know it's in the process of being picked. Now I'm going to do my final item. I'm going to scan my item. Again, I'm going to type in my bin and I'm going to do my quantity of 2. And once again, we see that our order is fully picked. Now it's set to picked. All those lines are showing is picked. And if we take a look at our sales order here, we'll see that pick flag change to yes. So there we go. We have yes on that one. And we have yes on this one as well for both lines. Now, once again, if I want to just go ahead and deliver this without jumping out to another form, let's say I picked them and it's ready to go right now, the FedEx driver's here, I can just simply hit this delivery button. And it's going to trigger another document to print. We're not going to worry about that today. And now you see it clears everything out. That's shipped in the system. If we go back here and refresh, we'll see both sales orders are now going to be closed. Both sales orders are closed. And if we check our relationship map, we will actually join those 2 sales orders to the same delivery note. Now, if you don't want to do this, you can back out and go order by order on the sales order delivery form that we have that we're going to show you in a minute. But here you have the ability to just join them together, pick the pick list, ship them right out. And if we take a look at that delivery, we can see all 3 lines, the 2 different lines of that same item for the 2 different orders, and then that final item there as well. Now, in a lot of cases, you're not going to want to just ship it out from the picking form. You're going to want to, go and do an actual delivery later after the items were picked. And in that case, we're not going to use a pick list. We're just going to jump into this SO delivery form here. And we're going to go through the list of items on each order, scan them in to confirm we're delivering those items, because of course you don't have to deliver an entire sales order. You could deliver, partially the full list of items. You could do one item, however you want to do it. In this case, there's only one item on our sales order, so we're simply going to scan in our SO delivery number. We're going to scan in our item, enter in our bin, scan this one. This time I have this bin code, and we're going to hit our quantity of 5. And what you're going to see here is nothing has happened yet in SAP Business One because we're actually utilizing a WiSys preload table. So if you have in your WiSys settings, and a lot of you probably haven't seen this, and if you need additional information on this, we can set up some time to talk about settings. You can turn on single transaction, which would create a delivery note for every single item you do. I do an item, I hit save, it creates a delivery note. I do another one, I hit save, it creates a delivery note. Some customers want that. In this case, I have single transaction turned off, so it saves it to a preload table so that I can save a multitude of items and then go through and just post that entire list of items to create one delivery note encompassing every item from the order, of course. So in this case, we can see our pending document here. This is what's in the preload table ready to go. Those are the items I've already identified for my delivery. Now, if I close that and I go ahead and post, if there were multiple lines on there, they would all be posted. Whatever was in my preload table has now been posted to a delivery note. And if I refresh here, now you'll see the actions take place in V1 to close out the order and allow me to go check out my relationship map and see that delivery note created in V1. And this comes in handy for situations where, maybe your picker also does the deliveries. They have to step away for a couple minutes and go pick an urgent order. That way they can save those items in a preload table, know they're ready to be delivered, and we can validate against that. But it doesn't just create disjointed delivery notes where they're doing a delivery note of 5 items, then they come back later, do another one. If you want everything grouped together, you can utilize the preload tables to do so. So pretty simple. What you see here is, 3 forms that stick very true to how SAP Business One works, and we're following that standard application of the SAP B1 documents, just bringing it to a handheld in your warehouse. Now, if I jump back over to my PowerPoint here, we'll go ahead and we'll move on to Enterprise. So again, between Essentials and Enterprise is Professional. That just lets you tailor any of those applications that we looked at. Now, when we add in Enterprise, we're adding two unique WiSys layers, the packaging layer and the WiSys shipping layer. So what we're doing here is the packaging layer allows you to group, several items. They could be different. They could be like items. They can be batch, serial, whatever you want to do. You can group several items into a package, assign it a license plate, and move those items freely around the warehouse or onto a shipment as a grouped item there with a license plate number. And then WiSys shipments provides a middle step between a sales order and an SO delivery. So normally in the warehouse, a lot of the times you're not just getting a sales order and looking at it, creating a delivery, and the items are out the door, right? There's usually a middle step. Maybe you pick them, maybe you don't pick them, maybe you just pack them. You take those items, you prepare them and stage them for the delivery, and maybe they need to sit together for a few days before they even get delivered. In this case, we provide that middle layer so that those items can be grouped together in the system as a shipment, and then that shipment can be delivered through WiSys, and then in turn, it creates an SO delivery in SAP Business One, and we're going to look at that all today. So first, we're going to start with pick to a package. Then we'll go through just packing without a pick list, loading a pallet, and then fulfillment manager, and we'll get into all the details on these here. So I'm going to jump back to SAP Business One, and in this case, I'm going to use a new sales order, 1084, and I'm going to use my pick list is going to be 444 here. Now we're going to start with picking to a carton. So SO pick pack carton. Anything cartons related is still distribution. but you will want to note, and we'll show this in a little bit here, anything pallets related is in the pallet menu. Pallets obviously kind of encompass a lot more data, and a lot of different things are happening in the warehouse when you utilize pallets. So we keep those separate in their own menu so that you can do any pallet functionality together. So we're going to start with carton here. Now, in our SO pick pack carton, we assign a shipment and then, of course, a carton utilizing the WiSys layers here. So in this case, I don't have a shipment to use and I don't have a carton to use, so I'm just going to hit enter. And I'm going to find my pick list, this 444. And then I'm going to assign my order, that 1084. My item, same item as we've been doing. And then just like before, this is a free form application, so it's not directing me to do anything. I can pick the item I want to do. I can pick the bin I want to do. So in this case, I'm going to pick my bin that I have a barcode for once again. And I'm going to do my quantity of 5. We're going to cancel our print. Now we see, again, fully picked. I'm using really simple pick lists here, just one item at a time. That's fully picked. If we jump back here and refresh, we'll see the item is now picked in SAP on the pick list. The status is picked, and the sales order will also have the pick flag assigned. But in this case, several things actually happen in WiSys that don't take place in SAP. So if we jump over to Agility Explorer, we're going to take a look at 2 different WiSys grids here. We're going to start with the inventory palette view, which can be found in inventory. So our inventory palette view allows us to see all of the packages in the system. If we jump back to our handheld here, we see we created carton 10131. And if I refresh my grid here, we'll see that carton now on the top of the list, assigned to shipment 260, which is that correct shipment here on the handheld. And we can also take a look at that shipment in Fulfillment Manager. And now that carton is packed, ready to go on a shipment. This shipment doesn't have to ship out until we are ready to go. We don't have to create an SO delivery to group items together when we're not prepared to or anything like that. This gives us that middle step to put these items aside, say this shipment's ready to be shipped, and we can wait to do it until we want to create a delivery. So now if I want to do something similar, but I want to do a pallet, we'll jump to another order, 1085, and another pick list. And we'll just go ahead and pick to a pallet real quick, which is very similar, basically the same process, except in this case, we're creating a pallet and not a carton. So I'm going to jump to my pallets menu, go to SO pick pack pallet. And I'm just going to follow the same steps I did before, except I'm going to pack it onto this existing shipment that we just created. So let's grab shipment number 260. And of course, I could pick several items to a pallet that already exists. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to create a new pallet because I don't even have a pallet on this shipment yet to begin with. I'm going to find my pick list number, my order number, scan in my item. Again, free form, I can pick the bin I'm pulling it from in this situation. So I'll scan my bin barcode and just do a quantity of 5. And once again, rather quickly, what we're going to see here is we picked the items in SAP, but we also created that pallet number and added it to that existing shipment in the system. So if I jump back to SAP B1, pick list changed to picked, 5 items are picked. I know we're repeating the same steps, but it's just important to see how these function in both systems. SAP changes all the statuses to picked. And if we jump back over to Agility Explorer here, refresh our Fulfillment Manager, you'll see that package added to the shipment here. We can see both packages on the shipment now. And in our inventory palette view, we'll see our new package created on top there with that same shipment number 260. So pretty simple situation there that allows you to, utilize a pick list, but still utilize the WiSys layers. This is where you're going to see the most steps repeated across from SAP to the different WiSys layers here, because you're utilizing a pick list, but you're still bringing over that WiSys package and that WiSys shipment. Now, let's say we don't want to use a pick list. We just want to pack packages for a shipment and still utilize that middle layer without creating an SO delivery. We're going to use pack packages to take care of that. So once again, I'm going to jump over to B1. I'm just going to go to my new order and my new pick list, 1086 and pick list. Oh, actually, I don't want a pick list because we're not using a pick list this time. So we're going to be done with pick list for the rest of the day here. So order 1086, no pick list is created. We're not picking the items in SAP. We're just simply packing them. In this case, we don't want to use pick, pack, and production manager. So now I jump over to my handheld. And we're just going to go ahead and we're going to go back to distribution and we'll pack cartons first. So down here, pack cartons. Same type of situation as before. I could add this to a shipment or create a new shipment. I'm going to create a new one by hitting enter. And then I'm going to go ahead and find my order here. I have a barcode for that. Again, sometimes in the warehouse, they may have barcodes for things like orders or pick list. Other times they won't. It's just going to depend on the customer. Going to find my item, free form, not telling me where to go. I pick where I want to go. So I go to the bin I want to choose it from. And then I'm just going to do a quantity of 5. And once again, we create our shipment and our package in WiSys. Now, nothing has happened here. We didn't have a pick list, so the pick status is still N. Nothing's changed yet in SAP Business One. But in this case, in WiSys, we created a package. So we see package 10133, type is a carton. And here, 10133, package type carton, shipment 261. And we can take a look at that shipment here in Fulfillment Manager. Ready to go. So we took a carton, didn't have a pick list, packed it up, we're ready to ship it out. Now, going back to that small parcel example that we talked about earlier, when we discussed, the ability to just pick items and ship them out right away. Same type of thing applies here. When you're using a carton, which is, like a small box in your WiSys system, a lot of the time it is for small parcel things. So let's say we have a FedEx driver there. It's an urgent order. It just came through. It's for Amazon, and they need us to pick 5 of this item, pack it up, and just hand it off to the guy who's already in the warehouse, right? This FedEx driver that's here in the warehouse. I'm simply going to take this after I packed it up, just hit my ship button here. And what's going to happen is I'm going to ship it out of WiSys, also creating a delivery note in SAP B1. So the document closes, it's been shipped. If I jump back over here to Fulfillment Manager, I see status changes indicating that my shipment is shipped. If we go to pallet view and we refresh our carton, we will also see that the status is now shipped and we have a confirmed ship date, so we can see the date it shipped out of the system. And lastly, we can jump to B1 and see if this actually created a delivery note in SAP. So if I refresh, we see SAP closed the sales order, and our relationship map once again indicates a delivery note, and we can see our delivery note here. So the ability to ship the shipments doesn't change anything with SAP Business One as far as how the normal documentation works. You're still going from sales order to sales order delivery. That extra step is just there in WiSys, but as soon as it ships out of WiSys, creates that sales order delivery. There's no need to go and repeat any processes in the two systems. They're not disjointed. Everything that needs to happen in B1 happens automatically as you go through the steps here with WiSys. So now we're going to go ahead and pack a pallet. Now, the one key difference here with packing a pallet is we, of course, do not allow you to just ship the pallet from the handheld. A pallet is not typically going to be used in a small parcel situation like that. So we don't want to give the, I guess in this sense, a packer, not a picker, we don't want to give that packer the option to go ahead and just ship this from the handheld, because chances are you're not going to pack a pallet on a pallet jack, right? And just hand it to a FedEx guy, say, here you go, and send him on his way. So we're going to go through the steps here, but this one we will need to fulfill from actual Fulfillment Manager on the desktop. So I'm going to go package, going to scan my order, scan in my item, my bin, again, free form, I can pick the bin, do a quantity of 5. and my pallet is now packed. I don't want to print any labels here. Now my pallet's packed. I have a new shipment 262. Pallet is 10134. Nothing has happened in SAP B1 because there's no pick list again. And if I jump back over to WiSys, I'll see my new pallet here when I refresh. 10134 package type pallet attached to shipment 262. And in Fulfillment Manager, I will see that pallet here. Now again, the pallet will have to be shipped out from the desktop in this case, which we're going to do in a minute. But first, the question arises when we do things like this. What if I want the ability to just take a pallet that's in inventory? So let's say I have a customer utilizing inventory pallets. When the pallets come in from a container, they're already palletized. They just take them, sit them in inventory, create the pallet number in WiSys, and those pallets sit as a full pallet in inventory for the life of their time in the warehouse, and then eventually they're moved to a shipment. If that's the case, I'm going to utilize our load pallet form to simply take those pallets and load them up to a shipment. So we're going to jump back to a new order here in B1, this order 1087 here, or no, that's my pack pallet order. I need to go to my next one, 1088, and I'm going to open up my handheld, close out of pack pallets, and do load pallets. But we're going to do a situation here where we want to load this pallet to the same shipment, 262. So I'm going to go ahead and enter that shipment number in here. I'm going to be adding my pallet to that existing shipment. I'm going to just scan my order and scan in my item. And then my pallet number I'm going to use, I want to find a pallet that fulfills that order perfectly. So my item is A00001. I want a pallet that has 5 on it. I'm going to check my inventory pallet view to see if that exists. And if I scroll down, I'll see right here 101, 106. If I type it in here to filter, that has that perfect quantity of 5 of that item. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to utilize that pallet 101, 106. And I'm going to load that pallet onto the shipment. So what we're doing is this pallet originally said shipment number 0. It's just an inventory pallet. It's not attached to any shipments. I'm going to refresh here. And now we're going to see a loaded date. I loaded it up today on 4/11 onto that shipment 262. And if we take a look at shipment 262, we'll see it now has another pallet, 2 different pallets in the system. That 101, 106 has been added. And earlier in the day, I created a new pallet for it, 10134. And we see those 2 different orders in SAP B1 communicated here as well, order 1088 and 1087. Now, let's say, it's the same customer. I want to just ship these out together. Walmart sends me a variety of different orders and tells me go ahead and ship them as a group, whenever you can. So that's what I'm going to do in this case. I'm just going to do an LTL shipment of both of these items. So currently, what we've done is nothing in SAP B1. We packed these items in WiSys. They're only here in WiSys utilizing our packaging table and our shipment table. Now we're going to create a document in B1 by shipping them. So if I go to LTL here, and I just go ahead and print, I have a document that's screwed up in there that's not going to print. Just disregard that. Now, if we go to our shipment 262, we have shipped the shipment. So we see the status here is S. It says status shipped. And if we jump back over to B1, similar to when we looked at our directed picking documents, both documents will now be moved to closed. And in our relationship map here, we will see that both sales orders have created, a delivery note, of course, and that delivery note here, 937, is going to encompass both sets of items. So we have our quantity of 5 for both of those items here associated with the 2 different orders. Pretty simple process there. Those are all the ways to pick and pack from the handheld device, but we want to take a look at Fulfillment Manager. So we looked at every way you do this on the handheld. Now, a lot of customers will have a shipping station, right? So they'll have a desktop over by their staging area by the dock that they scan in things with a USB scanner that's connected to that desktop. they'll scan in those items and ship them and handle all of that business right there at the dock. So if I jump over to Agility, take a look here in Fulfillment Manager, we're going to want to do a new order in SAP. So I'm going to handle this order 1089 here. I'm going to create a new shipment for it. I don't want to add it to any existing shipments. I don't need a trailer number or anything like that. It's not necessary in this case. And what I'm going to do is, this customer, they just need 5 items. I'm just going to pack a carton. So I just simply hit add carton, and I'm following the same type of process as I did on the handheld when I packed a carton. I'm just doing it from the desktop because I have an actual shipping station where my shipping people, go through the process here. So I'm going to go ahead and add an item. In this case, I only need to do one item, that A0001. So I just do add item, not add items. Add items would allow you to fulfill the entire order. My order number, I do have a barcode for. I'm just going to scan it in here. I'm going to scan my item again. And it's going to default to the staging bin. Of course, in a situation like this, the items have been staged, they're ready to go. The goal here is to move those items to the staging area at some point in the process. So that could be, if you have a pick list, you could do the regular sales order picking and move them to the staging bin after you've picked them in SAP. If you don't want to utilize Pick, Pack, and Production Manager, you could just simply do a bin transfer of the items to the staging bin and then let your shipping guys fulfill it here at their ship station on the desktop, which in this case, that's what I'm doing here. Do 5 of my item. And now you see my carton is created, 10135 with 5 of that item for that order, 1089. And once again, even though I didn't make it on the handheld, it is created here in my system on my pallet view. 10135, carton, all that information is communicated across. Now in Fulfillment Manager, I also have the ability to create a pallet. Same process, I can just add it there and add items, but I also have the ability to even pack a carton onto a pallet. So we provide inner packing capabilities from the desktop system here. You can't do any of this on the handheld out of the box, but if they have professional or enterprise, that can of course be tailored so that they can utilize this functionality as well. But if I want to double down on the packing layer, if I want to pack a carton and then put that box that has a unique license plate on a pallet, 2 layers of packaging, I can do so by highlighting my pallet, adding a carton, and now I have a carton packed inside of a pallet. Now in this case, both of these packages have no items. So if we go back to our inventory palette view and refresh, neither of them will show up there because there's no information stored in them. It's basically a ghost package at this point. It doesn't really need to be tracked anywhere within WiSys because there are no items. Now, this is all I needed for my sales order. If I go back to SAP, my sales order only has 5 units. We're good to go there. I'm just going to go ahead and ship this out. So I'll go to LTL again. If I had Agility shipping, I could ship FedEx, UPS, USPS. Again, I have a bad document in there. It's not going to print. But now we shipped. We can go back, take a look at our order. Shipped status is S. And if we jump over to SAP, once again, we will see that our order is closed and we have created our sales order delivery document. So again, while this process flow here, utilizing the desktop, isn't done on the handheld scanner like the other process flows that we talked about, it's still a warehouse floor process flow for picking and packing. So, they utilize the WiSys Fulfillment Manager to actually pack those shipments, giving that middle step. So we go from sales order. Now we packed up a shipment. We know those sales orders are ready to go, but we don't want to create the delivery yet. Maybe they sit on the dock for 5 days or something like that. The driver comes in and says, hey, I'm here to pick up these shipments. My guy can go over, scan the shipment number, pull it up in WiSys, and just hit LTL and go ahead and ship it out of the system. And it fits more true to what a real warehouse process looks like than just creating an SO delivery. So if I go ahead and close that out, that is all of the different ways to pick and pack out of the box from within WiSys here. So just to go back through what all we covered today, with Agility Essentials, our most basic version of the product, everything sits very true to what SAP one does, SAP B1 does out of the box, right? We take those documents from SAP, we take them to a handheld scanner in the warehouse and allow you to perform that functionality while you're actually walking through, going through the processes in the warehouse. And that's done through sales order picking, which is free form picking, which allows you to make the decisions as the picker. Directed sales order, most optimal pick path based on the rules you set up from within SAP Business One, and SO delivery, which allows the picker to go ahead and ship those items through the system, just creating an SO delivery for as many items on a sales order or as little items on a sales order as they'd like. Then, once a customer is on Agility Enterprise, they unlock the potential of WiSys to fill in some of the gaps that SAP has. So they can utilize two different distinct layers in WiSys, the packaging layer, which allows them to create different types of packages to group items together, like a pallet or a carton, and the shipment layer, which allows them to add a middle step between a sales order and a sales order delivery, where they're able to group together several different sales orders onto a shipment, pack that shipment up, have it ready to go in the system, but not create that delivery yet until they are actually ready to ship it out. And that's done through pick to package on the handheld utilizing a pick list, pack package, which can be done without a pick list, load package, which can be done with an existing inventory package and again without a pick list. And lastly, fulfillment manager, which is done on the desktop, usually with a scanner connected to the desktop still, and typically in a ship station like area near the dock where they handle all of the shipments. So this was a little bit of a quicker session today. I wanted to make sure I left time for questions. It looks like we still have about 18 minutes. Now, something like this, like I mentioned at the beginning, is typically a little bit easier to produce some questions after you've had some time to digest the different options and take a look and play around yourself. So if anybody has questions after the fact, feel free to contact me. This is my cell phone number and my email. Also, I'd love to hear from you guys if you want to set up additional training. Like I mentioned before, I want to have standing training meetings with all the partners if possible, just to help enable you guys with WiSys as much as I can and get you guys as self-sufficient with the product as possible. But now I'm going to go ahead and open it up for training or for questions. So if anybody has any questions, just feel free to throw them in the chat. And if not, thank you guys for attending. I hope you got something out of this session. This is a very important part of WMS.